All right, hello YouTubers and podcasters. Today is a significant day. Once again, breaking news. Donald J. Trump is back on Twitter. Yes, he is. This is his biggest platform. His voice is being heard once again to 88.2 million followers. That's a lot of followers, and that's precisely why Twitter and big tech and those who would wish to rig any election would want him to be off. So he's announced that he's going to go on the Elon Musk interview. Everyone's waiting for it at 8. We're going to make comments on it as it's happening live. But it's a big deal because Elon Musk tweeted about an hour ago and got 10 million views in 1 hour that Donald Trump is back on Twitter. To me, it's an obvious move that he should have been on here the whole time. So some of you may be asking, well, why wasn't he on Twitter all this time? It's very simple. Because he had a vested interest in building up Truth Social, not necessarily as an alternative platform, although that was needed for him for a while because Twitter banned him and then Facebook. Everybody seems to have silenced the most popular, the most well-known, the most famous man on earth. They just don't want you to hear about him. So that is part of the Antichrist spirit, any kind of control over you. Anybody who thinks that they know better than you, they're trying to replace God, right? I mean, God actually knows you and actually knows better than us, but we don't seem to want to follow him, the majority of the world. And you have these people who are not necessarily qualified in any way, not more successful in their family, in their personal life. And yet they have this delusion that they can control what you think, see, hear, buy, eat, grow. And so that's the Antichrist spirit that is trying to silence people. And Donald Trump, they came after him. And so he just said, you know what, I got the money, I'm a billionaire, I'm just going to make Truth Social. And it was a wise move temporarily for him because it was a way to raise money. Now you can see, of course, that his stock has fallen. Let's go take a look at that. There's a very simple reason why Donald Trump did not join X even after Elon Musk purchased X as Twitter. Because he knew that the moment he came back to Twitter, it'd be over for Truth Social, right? Truth Social is really an echo chamber for conservatives, whereas Twitter is a real micro news feed, live news feed. I'm getting my source of news now more from Twitter than Googling because Google censors so badly and they have such a narrative that you're getting a distorted, biased view of what's going on in the world. So he kept Truth Social going. He raised money from it, which was necessary as he was being harassed under lawfare and going through many legal cases. They were trying to seize his properties and his investments and then trying to fine him extraordinarily abusive amounts of money, $400 million. Who has ever faced that? I think people knew when they were investing in DJT that this is really almost like a campaign contribution. It's another way to help Donald Trump. So if you've invested in him, you lost 5% today, but obviously somebody knew what was happening because on a 5-day time frame, you would have lost 8%. In a 1-month time scale, you would have lost 19%. And for the past 6 months, you would have lost a whopping 45%. And people don't seem to mind because it's almost like, you have a stake in something, which is you have a stake in Donald Trump. Now, he's made a very bold move today to come back on X. You can see that he's posted 1 hour ago and pinned it. He posted 2 hours ago, 3 hours ago, so he's really back on track again. And that's what we want to see. We want to see him communicating without any censorship, and anybody can go and watch him. Now, I want to show you the reaction from the European Union. They are deathly afraid of the truth and of freedom of speech. This is why America has it as the First Amendment, right? Your right is guaranteed by God, but it's also nice to have it legally recognized in the country that you live in. The European Union is trying to interfere with tonight's X space, which is their interview, between Elon Musk and Donald Trump, demanding X implement content moderation or face consequences. This is a direct attack on free speech from Thierry Breton, European Union Commissioner. So when Donald Trump becomes president, he's going to deal with the EU. This is despicable that they would push their secular, dictatorial, tyrannical standards upon us in America. I think it's important to hear from Mike Benz, who's an expert on internet freedom and CIA cutouts and censorship. I interviewed him. He's on podcasts. You can find me on the podcast and on YouTube. Let's have a look at what he says about the European Union threatening Elon Musk. What is this about? Actually, it comes back to America, by the way. America controls Europe.
Or the left. They went after Jeremy Corbyn. Their quote was panic responsibly because we have two tricks up our sleeve still. And they said we would be in full panic, but for two things. And the first thing that they said was something called the EU Digital Services Act. And I would caution you not to think in your mind the bland blasé name EU Digital Services Act. This is the NATO censorship law. Okay?
It's
the NATO censorship law. The EU is basically the commercial arm of NATO. NATO wants to stop the rise of populist parties. In the U.S. and all the...
I don't know if you missed that, but he says it so nonchalantly. Europe is the commercial arm of NATO. Just what a revelation.
Across NATO, in the UK, in France, in Italy, in Spain, in Greece, in everywhere that there's an election this year and there's a populist party on the ballot, whether that's from the right or the left. They went after Jeremy Corbyn for being left-wing anti-NATO. It's just that left-wing populists have not had as much electoral success and don't pose as much of a threat there.
That's another big revelation. I mean, just in a few seconds, if you listen to Mike Benz on my podcast, you will get so much out of it. And I'd like you to go to podcast platforms, not because I really like them. I know Spotify censors people, but it's just in case that YouTube knocks us off. You can also just go to our Partners Club. It's something new where you'll get unlimited access to all that I write, speak, film, everything for you in Partners Club. And you'll be able to ask me questions weekly. I will mention you by name if I take your question. It's just another nice way to better connect with people.
But this NATO censorship law is very nasty because what it does is it goes beyond the simple hate speech laws that Europe have, and it imposes a new standard about disinformation. So it's creating a new industry for disinformation compliance. Now, the EU is a larger market than the United States. There's 550 million people in the EU. You cannot be a multinational tech platform without having access to the EU market. U.S. companies operating in Europe are going to have to cooperate with this disinformation law. Now, we know the people behind this are the same people who constructed the election censorship apparatus in 2020. So, for example, NewsGuard is partnered with the EU for doing the rules making on this. So they basically cited two things. They said, thankfully, this new NATO censorship law is going to force, no matter what Elon wants to do, he's going to have to play ball. He's going to have to play ball with this new law, and he's going to have to put in place the censorship measures that NATO rolls out around election disinformation. So no matter what, he's going to have to play ball with us.
So much for defending democracy, right? The West uses words in whatever way it suits them, and democracy should be based on people's preferences, which are informed through freedom of information. And instead, you have these people that are controlling even what you see, read, hear, and they use the law. They use the law to control that. They also use money. If you don't know, the famous podcasters, the famous YouTubers, they will not say things that I say simply because they don't want to be demonetized. Now, you know, I've been demonetized how many times. I've had videos just the rug pulled under us with no warning, and I don't take money from them. If I'm demonetized, I keep on. So what the creators that are famous, that are boosted in your feeds, what they do is they get a letter or a message from the top saying, don't say that, or I saw your interview, you interviewed someone controversial, telling the truth, just cut that part out. And so you will see money's their God. Now, since we don't care what they do, we find other ways that you partner with us. We create Partners Club. We sometimes promote people who are good Christian business owners. That's what we do. Just so you understand, you don't have to support, you don't have to purchase those things, but it's a way that we remain untied. No strings are pulling my hands and feet. Nobody is pulling what I say. I pray and I obey. And I can say all these things to you and show you what I believe is the truth because nobody's pulling my strings. You should know a lot of them are bowing down to big tech narratives because they want to remain monetized.
But we're still waiting for the final rules on that. The law has been passed. It will come into effect before 2024. It's hard to pierce, in advance of that. And then the second thing that they cited was the role of states, and that's both, on state election disinformation, censorship through the state Secretary of State's offices, which are a major Soros project, I should add, and then also through these new state mandated laws around media literacy.
So welcome back, Donald Trump, to X. That's good. We don't know how long it will stay free. X is only as good as Elon Musk, and Elon Musk doesn't seem to have any succession plan. No one's going to replace him. If he dies, something happens to him, none of his children are able to do what he does. And I don't see any second in command that's close to him. So X can change very quickly. So that's why right now, just say diversify. Come into Partners Club, discover church.online/partners.